So one of the games that we've been waiting to hear more about is Marvel 1943. This is the game coming from Amy Hennig, who's like the OG creator of Uncharted. She is like a legend in the industry, and her reputation precedes her in that regard. But she was booted out of Naughty Dog, it seems, circa 2013, 14, right about the time that Naughty Dog released The Last of Us. And then it seemed like there was some internal disagreement on direction. She left, and Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley took over Uncharted 4. And after that, she went and worked on like a Star Wars game that never saw the light of day, unfortunately. And she's done a couple of other things. But now she's working on Marvel 1943, which is this game that was initially like primarily shown off at the Unreal or State of Unreal, whatever they call it. And it's basically going to be an Unreal Engine 5 graphics showcase game. And it certainly looks it. It's very, very graphically stunning. But it's giving strong, like, Order 1886 vibes. You know, one of those games where it's graphically stunning, artistically beautiful, but it's like 4 hours long and there's not really any gameplay. It's mostly cutscenes. That's the vibe I'm getting from it. But we haven't heard anything about it. It was supposed to come out, I believe, this year. It got delayed till next year. And then out of nowhere, yesterday, some gameplay leaked. Now, they have started striking all clips of the gameplay, okay? I have seen it, I can describe it to you. But for obvious reasons, I can't pull it up. Even if I hypothetically had a backup. I can't. I can't for obvious reasons, but I can describe what it is to you. Basically, as you can see, it looks like early gameplay footage of 1943 was found and circulated online, showcasing development gameplay that is yet to be officially unveiled. And it's believed that this gameplay probably dropped sometime or is from a build roughly 2 years ago. Okay, so if you've seen it, keep in mind that allegedly the gameplay is roughly 2 years old. In addition to that, it looks like roughly a dozen screenshots were also shared, exploring destruction elements and other areas of the game, some stealth mechanics, lighting, and visuals. It appears that there will be a neat juxtaposition of sorts, with Black Panther playing the agile, stealthy character, while Captain America is likely to take on the role of the hard-hitting powerhouse. And basically, it looks as though these were clips captured. It gave like strong GTA 6 leak vibes, where like these were probably development captures, like it's being sent between coworkers, and they're like, hey, look at this. Oh, look at this. I figured out this. Oh, when we do this scene, this is what this looks like. Can you send me a video of the progress of this system? Yeah, here it is. It gave me the vibe of that. This doesn't seem to be like somebody hacked in and got a build of the game. It looks like it probably was something that employees were sharing with each other, and somehow that leaked. I don't know how. But in terms of the gameplay, basically what's shown, and I'm going to do this, of course, with the greatest tool known to mankind, what was shown was some combat gameplay where you see Black Panther jumping around a room, beating people up. The most striking thing about it to me, though, was if this is the room, it's not a third person thing where, like, you know, this is the frame and then you have your little guy here in the corner or edge of the screen, and he's fighting and punching bad guys who are over here. It wasn't like that, right? Instead, the camera took fixed positions around the room, kind of like old school Resident Evil games, or like Until Dawn, The Quarry, stuff like that. So as the player character leapt across the room, it would swap to this camera. And then he leaps over here like you're doing what looks like a free flow combat system or something, kind of like, you know, the Arkham games, where you leap over here, you start beating up the people over here, and it swaps to maybe this camera with a fixed field of view, right? And then the character moves over here, and so you swap to this camera with this field of view. And so it was very weird. It was very weird. And again, like, you could say it's 2 years old, it's development footage. It may not be the same. True. Very, very true. But I believe if the game is built from the ground up with these fixed camera angles, I don't think that's something that's going to change later in development. You know, I'm not so sure. But it was odd to me. It struck me as odd. It doesn't mean that it'll be bad. It just was not what I thought it would be. It does kind of go along with what other people have said, where it's like, it's such a graphically impressive game that a lot of the time, to do that and to maintain that quality, you have to make some concessions elsewhere, such as removing the freedom of the camera, movement. Like, the game handles that. You don't get control of it, so that they can make sure you're only seeing what they want you to see at any given moment, which helps them increase fidelity. I don't know. But what's shown is a 2-year-old gameplay in the works. It graphically looks pretty good for the time. I'm looking at it on my screen now. It looks graphically good for being 2 years out from launch, allegedly, or even 2.5, 3 years out from launch. But the choice of having fixed camera angles, I thought, was strange, because it does seem very, very jarring. I don't know. Does seem like a strange choice for a game like this. I agree. What they do show, they show a lot of like destruction physics. They show a lot of just general physics simulation, with like chairs getting flung around the room, with bottles being knocked off of the bar top, with the characters jumping over things and bumping into each other, and then they bump back into other things, knocking them over. So it does seem to be a very lively space, and that they have a lot of simulation going on, but the lack of freely controllable camera, I thought, was strange. It just feels odd, feels odd. So we'll see. There's honestly not much more to say beyond that, because that's all that leaked. But again, I think with these types of games, you got to go into it with the proper expectations. My expectation from the start, from the moment I saw it, was this is probably a 4-hour game that's graphically impressive and maybe narratively interesting, but probably the gameplay is a bit of a bum. Like, that's just what it is. It looks like a dev cam. Well, they have it scripted to follow the player's movements as they move. So, for example, I don't know how else to describe this than just crudely drawing it. So, for example, at one point in the gameplay, there's like a bar top here, okay? And then there's like some shelving back here, and we'll say that there's some enemies here that are the X's, and the player character is in green. So at one point, the player starts to move over. He like leaps over the bar top and starts attacking these guys. The camera, which I'll have in purple, the camera starts like here, and then it follows and moves with the player as he moves to the left of the room. So they have it scripted to anchor and start here, and then script it to follow in this direction as the player moves to that side of the room. That seems a lot more elaborate than just a dev camera, because typically just development, you're just gonna have the camera sitting still. Like, this is something they built to follow the player's movements in an environment. They scripted it to go this way as the player moves to this area of the room. And then once he crosses this threshold, it swaps to a camera maybe right here that has this field of view. So like, it's high effort. It wasn't just like phoned in. It was high effort. It's just an interesting choice. But as always, this is something that is in the works still. It's like 2 years old, allegedly. Could be a week old, but the stuff I saw was suggesting that it was about 2 years old. Things could change, things could shift, and we won't ultimately know until we play it ourselves. But it did leak, and the leaks looked graphically impressive, but the gameplay was like, interesting. Weird. So I'm intrigued. I don't know if it got me like excited or anything. It got me intrigued because I'm like, that's very different. We'll see. I love you, man, but man, you draw like crap, bro. You got me there. I never claimed to be no artist. I let MS Paint speak through me. Really is what it is. But anyway, yeah. So I wanted to give you guys an update on that to just let you know, because that did happen yesterday. Not a whole lot to go on, but we probably will see more of it maybe at the Game Awards, considering it's supposed to release like the end of this year. So they should have a trailer in theory or something, and then maybe release some point early next year. We'll see. But I do think that we should see something of it by the end of the year. That would be my guess. Will it be another unoptimized UE5 game? Place your bets. I think it'll be optimized for 30 frames, and it'll probably look pretty good for 30 frames, and I think it's going to be very cinematic and everything. So I think it'll be this. What you're seeing is what it will be. So it's going to be very cinematic. It's going to be graphically gorgeous. You're going to be like, how on earth is this running in real time? But it is. But the gameplay is going to be pretty minimal. And I mean, it's going to be like Hellblade 2. Exactly the same thing. Graphically stunning, but all of these features and little bells and whistles are kind of built around high resolutions, lower frame rate targets, and less dynamism within the gameplay. And some people love that, okay? There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it also means that there's going to be a lot of people who probably are turned off by it because they don't want a playable movie, as you say. They want more dynamics, more gameplay. But the market's big, dude. The market's big. People like visual novels where you're basically just reading the whole time. Like, remember years ago, you guys tricked me into playing Doki Doki Literature Club, or I think that's what it's called. I one time called it Donkey Donkey Literature Club, and people made fun of me. So I think it's Doki Doki. But you guys tricked me into playing that. You're like, prepare yourself, Luke. It's really scary and unsettling. And then we just like read for like 3 hours. And then, like, yeah, I was like a little sad, but I felt lied to. But anyway, like that's a genre of game that you can do. You can play that. Some people love those games. That's great. And this, I think, is going to be a playable movie with less focus on the gameplay. Oh, a playable game. I said playable game. Playable movie. Some people want a playable movie or a playable novel and stuff like that, but others want more gameplay. I think that this is probably just going to be one of those games. It's a graphical powerhouse. It's meant to showcase the power of the Unreal Engine 5's cinematics and stuff, facial capture, but I don't think it's going to be I'm not expecting a 10 out of 10. He took my thing.